I don't know about you, but when I watched Naruto for the first time, I really enjoyed the idea of Sage Mode, as if it was like a natural, raw power, all based around nature, and there were so many crazy perks that added to basically Naruto himself. Now, with that said, it would be a little bit different if Sage Mode was in Demon Slayer, just because there isn't necessarily chakra and stuff like that. I more see it as a natural or a nature-based buff, and maybe a buff, a quote-unquote buff, is a bit of a understatement, you could say. Because if Tanjiro had Sage Mode, it would be absolutely insane. And in short, it would make for some basically crazy or insane powers that Tanjiro could actually use. I mean, we're gonna stay away from the whole summoning and all of that, but we'll mostly ride with the idea of the attributes that he gains. The physical strength, the speed, stamina, reflexes, perception, and durability, all being enhanced because of the natural energy manipulation and because of the nature-based power of Sage Mode. Now, with that said, how does this even happen? Well, I think it all starts with Tanjiro coming by to see his family all dead. Unfortunately, Tanjiro unable to be there for his family, at least in that time, but we all know he would have ended up just like them if he was there, or worse. But he sees that his sister Nezuko is somehow still alive. He goes racing over to grab her, picking her up and charging away. Now, as he runs with Nezuko on his shoulder, he feels a bit of a struggle, and eventually Nezuko would try and attack him, even try to bite him, struggling so much so that they fall off a small cliffside. Now, he lands in the snow, but this time around, he lands in said snow, but on top of a sheet of paper. But it doesn't look like any normal sheet of paper, it looks like a scroll. Now, this is something odd, but not something Tanjiro can react to, and same thing with Nezuko, unable to react to it at all. The scroll would roll out as Tanjiro would land on top, same thing with Nezuko, and they would be transported away almost instantaneously. And a demon slayer by the name of Tomioka, or Gyu Tomioka, would be just arriving to see the two magically transport into nothingness, which would shock him entirely, wondering how this would even make sense, and thinking maybe the demon themselves had some sort of teleporting power. Now, he would look around and search the area, but nothing. Literally nothing, not even a single trace. Now, this is where we start a brand new area, and somewhere that not even demons know about, not even Hashira know about, and not even the test of time truly knows about, and that is Mount Myoboku, and Mount Myoboku is other known as the Land of the Toads. Now, this place is something very interesting, because out of nowhere, a small looking toad by the name of Fukasaku would knock out Nezuko almost instantly. And he would say that, well, he brought them here, and he knows that this world has changed drastically from the worlds he's seen before, and on top of that, well, he knows that Nezuko right there is a demon that wants to feast on human flesh and kill Tanjiro. But with the help of toad oil and many other things revolving around Mount Myoboku, they should be able to get Nezuko to actually change her mind. Actually change her mindset as a demon entirely, and more lean to the idea of actually protecting Tanjiro. Tanjiro would think this is insane. No, he's supposed to protect his sister, and they need to go back. His family, they need help. But of course, Fukasaku would be a very intelligent toad, and an intelligent being in general, telling him that there is no going back. Not right now, because he isn't ready. He's confused. What do you mean, isn't ready? In which Fukasaku would explain with the other toads exactly what he needs to do. learn how to use Sage Mode. And they're going to spend a ton of time here learning to do so. And he knows that the ability and also more or less the potential of Tanjiro would allow him to be capable of utilizing Sage Mode and would allow him to be capable of actually learning it. So over a long course of time, around the same amount of time that it took him to learn water breathing, he would learn the art of Sage Mode, the art of natural energy, and be able to more or less channel that energy within himself, becoming one with nature. Now, with all that said, and throughout this time, he would go through his struggles. This is no easy feat by any means, but Tanjiro is a bit of a fast learner. And on top of that, his sense of smell and his other natural abilities would allow him to actually learn Sage Mode. At least that's in this reality. Now, you would make the argument that Tanjiro would not be able to learn it because of many reasons, but come on, it's a what if, so let's have a little fun with it. Now, with that said, Fukasaku believes that Tanjiro could be the one person to completely cure and clear out this plague of demons, because Sage Mode is something that it was a bit of a test. And Sage Mode, in theory, at least to his own theory, is something that could destroy demons, obliterate them, and actually kill them without the help of sunlight. Yes, nature has a tendency of cleaning out viruses, has a tendency of getting rid of these horrible, basically cancers in nature on its own and through just sheer evolution. And it seems that maybe nature itself will want to channel through the boy by the name of Tanjiro to defeat the demons that have been plaguing just as much, if not more, than the humans themselves. Tanjiro Kamado will not only be the advocate for the toads, but be the advocate for nature itself. Now, with that said, they go on and they continue their training. After finishing and learning to utilize Sage Mode, Tanjiro would be sent back to where he was initially, sent back on his journey, but this would be different. He wouldn't have information about the demons, a lot of it actually, and he would be immediately sent to the one and only Hashira mansion, or the Butterfly Mansion specifically. Now, the reason for this was so that the Hashira could get a grip on the idea that Nezuko and Tanjiro are so much different. Nezuko is a demon, but it seems like a more natural demon now. A very powerful Nezuko that actually absorbed some of the toad oils, so that she's even partially in Sage Mode herself, but since demonhood actually helps her body entirely, it's a little bit different. It's as if it's a natural cancer in a way, quote unquote, for the nature itself. We know that nature has predators, has horrible things that actually hurt the environment, but those things need to be there, and sometimes you have nature's natural predators that clean up other things that aren't supposed to be there. Think of it like that. That is what Nezuko is to a certain extent. Now, is she extremely powerful? No, because there's just restrictions on it, for say. She hasn't gotten the experience that she normally would have had, or more or less would have later on, so she's not like as powerful as she would be at the very end of Demon Slayer or anything like that, or before she got cured and everything, but she is pretty strong, and it's like she's a natural demon in a way, or a nature-based demon, you could call it, if you want to go down that alleyway. But let's go back toward Tanjiro more specifically. A complete and utter conversation would come about very quickly about who Tanjiro is, what they're doing here, who's that person right there, and that Nezuko is a demon. And a fight would temporarily break out, but it's pretty obvious and pretty transparent that Tanjiro is actually stronger than every single Hashira in front of him. Now, with that said, they would speak on more or less Ubuyashiki speaking with Tanjiro himself, but he's somewhere else at the moment, unable to speak with him. But Tanjiro explains to the Hashira that are currently present everything that happened, what occurred, and every last thing that ever happened entirely, in which Giyu would eventually step up and say that they are the two that he saw that day that just disappeared. He thought that they transported somewhere nearby, maybe transported like in a different direction because of a demon blood art, but that wasn't true. They were transported to a totally different plane of existence, it seems. But Tanjiro would explain that that's not necessarily the truth either, but they were kind of reverse summoned, you could say, to another place called Mount Myoboku, a place that you cannot get to via walking unless you know the exact area and exact pathway to go to. And he says that he was taught by toads the way of the Sage mode, and also Nezuko has gained powers from that as well, but also tame on the idea of becoming a demon, or the idea of being a demon, not thirsting or having hunger for human flesh anymore because of it. Everyone's completely shocked, but eventually they would call out for Ubuyashiki to eventually arrive. Now, with a long time waiting, because he's not gonna be able to get here immediately, there is a conversation that is stirred up about Tanjiro even being a demon slayer. He doesn't even have a sword. Now, with that said, they all want to test him. Can he even fight a demon with this so-called power? And they test him out on a regular demon. No, nothing crazy. No crazy demon or anything like that. And he absolutely obliterates the demon through hand-to-hand combat alone. But it seems like there's a space in between his strikes, as if when he punches, it's actually a surrounding aura that actually hits the demon, and it strikes the demon perfectly, obliterating its body and forcing it to not be able to regenerate at all. Now, will this work against higher tier demons, more or less the upper moons or the 12 Kizuki? He's not 100% sure, and no Hashira is sure either, but in raw strength and talent, there is no doubting that Tanjiro is at their level, if not higher. So for now, they'll keep a close eye on them until Ubuyashiki would arrive. And when Ubuyashiki would arrive, there would be a conversation about Nezuko and Tanjiro being demon slayers, and they would actually decide not to send them off to a final selection just because they're already past that time and they can't do anything about it. But luckily enough, they will be honorary demon slayers. There's no point of not putting them in that position, but they do question if they should give Tanjiro a sword or not. I mean, he's trying to say that he doesn't need one, but he's gonna need one to kill demons. It doesn't make sense that he doesn't have one, but Tanjiro says that to trust him, to rely on that power that he has, and that's it. Don't worry about it, at least not to an extent, excuse me. And they all kind of just brush it off, and they kind of say that, you know what, if you want to do that and you want to fight without a sword, you can do that, but if you die, don't somehow blame it on us beyond the grave. They kind of chuckle about it a little bit, but the training would then begin for Tanjiro specifically. And Tanjiro would be very, very good at everything he does, and he needs to more or less pick up on the idea of keeping Sage Mode active as long as possible. Because at the end of the day, he can't control it forever. Eventually it will run out, and eventually he will not be able to utilize it. But luckily enough, he can activate it as long as he sits still and relaxes and meditates, and he's pretty good at that. But he wouldn't want Sage Mode to just drop out in the middle of a battle, so actually learning a concentration breathing, or just a breathing style in general, is something that is very, very beneficial. Now, they would speak on who should teach what, and it's actually decided that Iguro teaches Tanjiro how to use concentration breathing, and only reason why is because his breathing style heavily revolves around being a snake, or kind of that snakish movement in which Tanjiro's whole mantra is nature-based. So they think, you know what, why not? So let's have them work together and maybe have Tanjiro build up his own breathing style, quote unquote. But Tanjiro doesn't really need that necessarily. His own techniques are his own techniques, but when you stack concentration breathing, like I said, concentration based, on top of Sage Mode, it just makes him even stronger and even better than he was before. So when he gets the opportunity to show what he's capable of, when he intercepts a kind of a demon mountain of some sorts full of multiple demons, or Rui's entire family, including Rui himself, when he takes on the one by the name of Rui, a demon that has a blood demon art that is full webbing and completely lethal, it's even more impressive when he can walk through it without even getting a single scratch. Now that's scary for the demons and scary for everyone else, and Tanjiro would practically be able to destroy Rui, one-shotting him and obliterating him to the point that there was nothing left even before Rui's head was completely decapitated and finished. Now, there is a bit of time of training that they go through after Rui's defeat, but Tanjiro doesn't necessarily need that training. He gets sent out more or less on missions and so on and so forth, but people do talk about maybe Tanjiro should teach others the way of Sage Mode, but there's just not something Tanjiro can necessarily do, and that the Toads would have a way easier time of doing that, but he doesn't necessarily know if he could even get in contact with them anytime soon. He has no way of getting to Mount Myoboku, and frankly, he's not sure if they're even ready to take on more and more students. Tanjiro just doesn't know, and it took him so long to learn Sage Mode that would it even be worth it? I mean, he's not 100% sure, but it just doesn't feel that way. But the information of Sage Mode and the natural kind of way of Mount Myoboku continues to spread, and Muzan wants to learn about this so-called place, maybe utilize the power that is there for his own good, and utilize the power for his own benefit. Muzan wants that, but there's also no way for him to know where to go if not even Tanjiro knows where to go. Yes, there is some information that slowly trickles down as Tanjiro destroys more and more demons, but there's zero information, absolutely zero. So Muzan is completely in the dark. But with that said, let's talk about some of the events that normally happen in Tanjiro's path. Now, quickly, we can talk about the part where they fight Akaza. Yes, I know I'm skipping over the Mugen train, but let's be honest, Enmu is no challenge here, especially if Tanjiro does go with Rengoku. But Akaza is and always will be a challenge. Now, there's a couple ways to look at Sage Mode, especially in terms of a demon's regeneration. With Rui, I can see him obliterating Rui entirely, very easily in fact, because Rui's regeneration isn't as insane as Akaza's. But in my opinion, really, I don't think Sage Mode would be as good on, well, Akaza than it would be against Rui. Now, would Tanjiro and Rengoku stand a chance against Akaza? I think so. I think so for sure. But I do also think that Akaza's hand-to-hand combat prowess also allows him to keep up in the fight. So this would more or less allow Akaza, a full-powered Akaza by all means. He's not holding back like he was holding back against Rengoku. And this version of Akaza could keep up to a large extent, at least until he's forced to run away. But Tanjiro doesn't want to let him run away. But the thing is he's under a time crunch just as much as everyone else, and that time crunch involves Sage Mode. So eventually his Sage Mode would quickly run out, and he would not be able to actually catch up to Akaza and defeat him. Akaza would know that Tanjiro's power is a scary thing, and let's be honest, time is of the essence for the demons now. by and large, because Tanjiro's power will only get better with Sage Mode over time, and the more he learns, the better he will get. The more he learns of the concentration breathing, and the more he trains in that regard, will only make him better. Shoot, you could even say that he might be a direct counter to Akaza even in the near future. And the reason why I say this is just how Akaza can actually defeat Tanjiro. That there isn't many ways for him to defeat him other than playing a bit of a stall fest and eventually wearing him out. But he needed to get him early, like now. And since he didn't because of Rengoku's help, there's a good chance and a high likelihood that that fight does not go in the favor of Akaza in the near future. But with that said, let's talk about the Entertainment District arc. And I think it's pretty obvious what's going to occur. If Tanjiro goes and helps and eventually fights Daki, Daki stands absolutely no chance. Absolutely no chances, and it's not even close. We know that the cloth that she uses is basically an attachment of her. It's no normal cloth. It's kind of like her blood demon art. So you know that it is part demon. So it wouldn't even be able to touch Tanjiro without getting massively hurt. And we know that Daki's really not the strongest person in the world. Gyutaro is far stronger than her, but his main thing, of course, is the speed and stuff like that. But he also has some major poisoning, which Tanjiro completely cancels out because of the way his nature abilities work. That's just my headcanon in a Sage Mode version of Demon Slayer. Now, with all that said, they would eliminate and defeat both of them relatively easily, but it all matters about time and place for Tanjiro, because there's no guarantee that he stops Tengen from being poisoned and eventually leading to Tengen kind of being at a bad spot, losing kind of a lot of his sense of being a Hashira slash Demon Slayer, and eventually deciding that he's going to retire. But that's mostly because of his wives. His wives convince him of that. But with the Entertainment District arc over, and you still have someone like Rengoku, which is great because you're not missing an extra Hashira, you actually lead into the Swordsmith's Village arc. And I hate to say it this way, but Tanjiro won't even be there. And it's unfortunate because Tanjiro not being there does mean a lot of bad things are gonna happen. And there's a good chance this may even the playing field just a little bit. And I'm not saying Tanjiro couldn't eventually get there, because I do think that is a reality. Tanjiro can sense it through nature and race there, but there's a good chance that Mitsuri and maybe even someone else would end up perishing. There's a good chance. It depends on how fast Tanjiro gets there. So now my whole idea of being up a Hashira is kind of out of the way. You're most likely going to be down a Hashira, if not a Hashira and another Demon Slayer. And yes, Tanjiro would most likely arrive there, and it would be a sense of kind of urgency. And after defeating kind of every demon there, or helping out with the defeat of the demons there currently, well, Tanjiro would be in a bit of a predicament. Because let's make this very clear. Tanjiro never met Lady Tamayo. There is no cure. So if Muzan decides to come fight, we're relying on the fact that Sage Mode is enough to more or less purify a demon. Now, I would love to say that he has enough power to purify someone like Muzan, but I'm gonna be honest, there is no guarantee that that's even the truth. There's a good chance that Muzan isn't affected by the powers of Sage Mode, and yes, Tanjiro may kill someone like Akaza, maybe even Kokoshibo with the help of the other Demon Slayers, maybe even Doma would fall victim to the power of Sage Mode, but without the extra bit from Lady Tamayo, there's no way they would win, but there's also no way Muzan would conquer the sun, because I don't think Nezuko would be quote-unquote his way to conquer it. I think him actually absorbing Nezuko would be a bad idea, because he would be bringing these sage or toad oils that I believe have benefits with Nezuko, most likely will not have the same benefits with Muzan. Like I said, nature has a hell of a mind of its own, so in my opinion, if he does decide to do that, Nezuko may end up sacrificing herself to defeat Muzan. But I don't think Muzan's that stupid. He knows that it's not that simple and that Sage Mode has been killing his demons drastically. But I think it's a long-term game for Muzan, because after wiping out everyone and after being practically the last alive, it would be a brand new start for the King of the Demons, and he would need to start his reign once again to get even more demons to conquer everything, and eventually, hopefully on his regard, hopefully conquer the sun. Now, some of you may not like that ending. You may think, no, Sage Mode Tanjiro could really defeat him, and I could see arguments saying that he definitely could. I just think a certain event orders definitely screw over Tanjiro to a large extent, but I'm definitely in the books of, I think in another reality, he definitely could defeat Muzan and be ridding the world of demons entirely. But with that said, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. It's a little bit longer than normal. Sorry about that. More saying sorry to my editor, but that's beyond the point. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I hope y'all have an amazing day. Later.